Hello, YouTube, and happy Mother's Day in an alternative way, we'll say. I am just going to play a song from the Album 22 album, and it's a compilation CD that 22 artists around the globe and I have been working on. With Jared Wade from Mad Hatter's Music. And so very exciting to be pulling all of that together. It's still in process. But this is a song by a fabulous human being named Rimini that is called Future Human. Just get yourself moving if you want to.
I'm a future human, flying in from past, swelling up a new mixture. My history's vast. I learned from many cultures, and I'm beginning to bend. Not roasted or ground, no, I'm a new kind of blend. No label, no set, no box I come in. One of a kind, that's me. Too white to be black, but I'm screaming along with the king. And I'm too black to be white, so I can get my wings. I'm too good to be fabulous, and you can hear my tears when I speak. I'm a future human. I'm a future human. I am a swirl. I am a blend. I'm a future human. I am a swirl. I am a blend. I'm a future human. We're chartering a new path, a no-star movement, a new race for humanity, and it's just called we, my friend. So if we're drawing lines in the sand and delegating sides to take, let me know which bits of me go and which bits I should fake. No label will fit, no box I come in. One of a kind, that's me. Too white to be black, but I'm screaming along with the king. And I'm too black to be white, so I can get my wings. I'm too good to be fabulous, and you can hear my tears when I speak. I'm a future human. I'm a future human. I am a swirl. I am a blend. I'm a future human. I am a swirl. I am a blend. I'm a future human. Everywhere that we come from, no matter we belong. Everywhere that we come from, no matter we belong. Everywhere that we come from, no matter we belong. Everywhere that we come from, no matter we belong. Too white to be black, I'm screaming along with the king. And I'm too black to be white, so I can get my way. Together to be fabulous, and you can hear my tears when I speak. I'm a future human. I'm a future human. I'm a future human. I'm a future human. I am a swirl. I am a blend. I'm a future human. I am a swirl. I am a blend. I'm a future human. I'm a future human. I'm a future human. I'm a future human. I'm a future human.
Woo! Yes. We are all future humans, my friends. We are here to get ourselves moving and grooving, and then to be able to say, hey, we came here for something different than is what is here. So welcome today, and happy Mother's Day to you who get to celebrate with your mother or grandmother or the mother figures in your world. Congrats. That's a nice privilege and a blessing, because not everyone can. Because some have lost mothers, and my grandma was very much a mother figure in my world, and she passed last year, and it's been a journey. And my own mother doesn't want to get together because she thinks that I'm too rebellious, and I interact with people because I go to rallies. Well, I only went to 2, but I spoke at one, which put me out there in a way that was more obvious than others. And obviously, I've paid the consequences with getting a summons that now I have to deal with. And I'm just trying to get that little piece back in order. But how befitting. So I don't get to see the only mother I have today. And that's a choice that is being made that I'm just honoring and respecting. And you may be in the same boat, or you may have a mother that you get to see. And if you do, that's awesome. I'm glad for you, and it brings tears to my eyes. Because love is not meant to be conditional. Love is meant to be unconditional. And it's hard when it doesn't when that's not the experience. But we get through it, because I wanted to share with you Sacred Contracts from this book by Carolyn Mace that's been a very interesting book. And I'm feeling the emotions, and I'm letting them be present, because when we try to suppress anything or compress it or deny it or reject it, we do that to the little child within us that has been suppressed and repressed and depressed and rejected for so long, that when she shows up because she just wants to be loved, we just have to be with that and let it be okay. And to say that the tears can come, and it doesn't mean that we have to be taken away by them. It doesn't mean that we have to try to excuse ourselves so that we can deal with our stuff. And instead of judging what's showing up in that moment, which is energy in motion that's meant to move, instead, why not just embrace what shows up and let it flow, so that we can become the parents to ourselves, the ones that will love us regardless. And even though the ones that may judge us because we don't comply, we don't conform, we do things in a way they don't understand because it's not norm, it's not the norm, it's just, we got to love ourselves first and foremost. And when we love ourselves, then we can extend love to those that also need love. And so I love my mom, and I loved my grandma, and I still do. And I'm grateful to the mother in me that is able to now parent my inner child. And so today's service, to be honest, I wasn't even going to do one, because I didn't specifically know what was going to be covered today, except right beforehand, I decided that I would actually read the archetype of a mother. And then I'm going to read you one of the 4 survival archetypes, which includes the child, the prostitute, the saboteur, and the victim. Because those 4 are the archetypes that are either in their scared side because we have a parent on the throne of our own inner kingdom that's not kind, that judges us and all of those aspects of ourselves that show up as emotional eruptions others get uncomfortable with. And we could too if we chose to, but instead we say, yo, I'm going to love this because it's showing up now, because it's ready to be released. And instead of judging it, I'm just going to love it. And so I hope that this is helpful to you, because I just work with the moment and what shows up in it. And I let those emotions, energies in motion move, so that then I can really embrace all of who and whose I am, as are you. Because as much as we want to put God into a box and think Jesus is related to a certain religion, religions are boxes, words are boxes. Everything of this world is a box. When we actually break it down, the creator, the source of all that is, that we all come from and all return to, it's all of it. All one is the truth, whereas alone is how we feel when we leave love out. So I'm going to read you what it means to be a mother. And then we'll get into the child specifically, who, when in its scared side, is the guardian of self-esteem. So when we judge ourselves for the emotion that shows up to be released, we're in our scared side. And we can choose to more responsibly parent ourselves, to be the paw that rents this body, to be the one that ultimately gets to be here for as long as we are, and so we must live fully while we're here. The mother is the life giver, the source of nurturing and nourishment, unconditional fountain of love, patience, devotion, caring, and unselfish acts. This archetype is the keeper and protector of life. From children to the family to in the greater nature, mother nature aspect. This archetype is the keeper and protector of life. From children to the family to in the greater mother nature archetype, the earth and all life. Mother Nature, also known as Gaia, is the goddess of life, the caretaker of the living environment of this planet. She is recognized as powerful, and when storms leave death and destruction in their wake, she may be referred to as wrathful. The power of compassion and the endless capacity to forgive her children and put them before herself are essential to the good mother. The devouring, abusive, abandoning, and working mother each represent different aspects of this primal archetype within the entire human community. Although mothers have always worked, the contemporary archetype of the career or working mother reflects the crises experienced by many women who seek also to be devoted mothers. Measured against the impossible mythic ideal of the perfect mother, the career mom is sometimes assumed unfairly to be a mother who puts her own needs before those of the children. This is an archetypal crisis for many women. The devouring mother consumes her children psychologically and emotionally, and often instills in them feelings of guilt at leaving her or becoming independent. The abusive and abandoning mothers violate natural law by harming their own young. Connections to the mother archetype are not to be measured only by whether a woman is a biological mother. If you are intimately connected to nurturing and protecting the environment, including gardening or farming or supporting any life form or activism in a sacred and soulful way, you should strongly consider whether your bond to Mother Nature is part of a lifelong devotion that defines you. You may also recognize a strong bond to the mother archetype in the form of one or all of her shadows. While it is difficult to admit, some women may have to face the fact that their children see them through their shadows aspects of the mother, including the abusive or abandoning mother. Just as women can have a real connection to the father archetype when they take on the paternal role in the household, so some men may relate to being Mr. Mom, yet another contemporary sculpting of the mother archetype. The qualities that are associated with this archetype can be expressed in other than biological ways, such as giving birth to books or ideas, or by nurturing others, which very much speaks to me, who, as you may know, have been writing a book about the transformation of self-image through the hero's journey from a soulful perspective for 4 years. And I call it the book that rewrote me before the world got to see the version that will come, now that I have integrated the lessons that I gained from the Valley of Transformation that completely changed me and gave me eyes to see what's happening prematurely, because I got there about 6 months before all of the world went into this pandemic that is taking the world by storm and will more, if we don't choose to intentionally bring love back into form in our own selves, in our world. And figuring out how to move beyond the hurt of others too, to be able to do that, is something I'm still clearly working on. And it's okay. We might think that Jesus was the only son of God. I think that's blasphemous, to be perfectly honest, simply because if God loves us all, how could he only create one that he loved the very most, and all the rest of us are chopped liver? I doubt it. I can't believe it. I never could, which is why religion never resonated for me, because I believe that we all came here to become the ascended masters, like the one that is wrote about, in a way that makes it seem as if that was an impossible feat and only possible for him who did it. But ascension is a scientific process if we actually learn alchemy. And we need to, with the amount of chemtrails that are in the skies, this morning and every other day now, and then the weather gets wonky because it's being altered, geoengineered. We have to start looking at things for what they truly are and take our power back. And so that is why I wanted to actually take you through what it means to actually embrace and embody the empowered aspect of the child. Because a mother oftentimes is only thought to become a mother when she becomes a biological one. But that is such a disservice because we're all needing to mother the children of this world right now who are being led by fear and fearful people that don't have time to actually make up their own minds and instead are being told what to think, like the education system teaches. And that is just not okay. We didn't come here to think the way that it's always been, to do what has always been done and expect different results, which Einstein defined as insanity. Instead, it is time for us to actually understand. What I feel drawn to read is the opening story of Abraham as it occurs in the Hebrew Bible. Yahweh said to Abram, "Leave your country, your family, and your father's house for the land I will show you. I will make you a great nation. I will bless you and make your name so famous that it will be used as a blessing. I will bless those who bless you. I will curse those who slight you. All the tribes of the earth shall bless themselves by you." So Abram went as Yahweh told him, and Lot went with him. Abram was 75 years old when he left Haran. Abram took his wife Sarai, his nephew Lot, all the possessions they had amassed, and the people they had acquired in Haran. They set off for the land of Canaan and arrived there. Abram passed through the land as far as Shechem's holy place, the oak of Moreh. At that time, the Canaanites were in the land. Yahweh appeared to Abram and said, "It is to your descendants that I will give this land." So Abram there an altar for Yahweh, who had appeared to him, for there he moved on to the mountainous district east of Bethel, where he pitched his tent with Babel to the west and Ai to the east. There he built an altar to Yahweh and invoked the name of Yahweh. Then Abram made his way stage by stage to the Negeb. Genesis 12, 1-9. And that is important for us all to be aware of because the Bible is said to be basic instructions before leaving earth. And then we have to understand that what it actually is and the reason that it's used in the corrupted court system is because laws stand for land, air, water, and space. Space is God. It's not so much the jurisdiction that is used in the court system, but if you don't understand land, air, and water, which is ecclesiastical law, contract law, and admiralty law, then we have judges ruling over jurisdictions that we have not claimed, such as Article 61 of the 1215 Magna Carta only covers one, which means it leaves a judge in the two other jurisdictions, which is why people get arrested when they pursue and cover their territory only in just one jurisdiction. I'm learning a lot, and I will share it as I go, because I believe that that is what is required, and I'll do my very best. But today, the purpose of this message, being Mother's Day, I wanted to share with you the 4 archetypes of survival. And so I'm going to read the child, which is the guardian of innocence when in its empowered form. And I'll just introduce the whole chapter because it's a good one. Current attitudes hold that our characters and personalities are formed during childhood through a combination of nature and nurture. Indeed, during the first 2 decades of life, we make our first promises to ourselves to provide for and protect others. To protect ourselves, not others. Many people have told me that as adolescents, they promised themselves they would never be physically abused or humiliated again. Children make vows to themselves that they will become scientists, artists, or mothers, or simply find a way to become wealthy. These commitments are part of our path in the physical world. All are influenced by the four primary archetypes. During the first years of our lives, we come to realize that the quality of our physical lives depends on our sense of personal power, on our ability to survive. Long before we become emotionally and spiritually empowered, we must engage our personal power in the material world. We also begin to understand that we must deal with moral issues or suffer the consequences, such as what is happening right now, and why we are all being called to step into our sacred side out of the scared aspects of these very survival archetypes. Long before we become emotionally and spiritually empowered, we must engage our personal power in the material world. We also begin to understand that we must deal with moral issues or suffer the consequences. In engaging with the physical world and the moral choices that present themselves, we develop self-esteem. This is the beginning of spiritual maturity. The four primary archetypes, the child, victim, prostitute, and saboteur, symbolize our major life challenges and how we choose to survive. Together, they represent the issues, fears, and vulnerabilities that cause us to negotiate away the power of our spirits within the physical world. They also can come to represent spiritual strengths for dealing with real life and spiritual issues. These four archetypes are like the four legs of a table on which our sacred contract rests. The table leg represents our relationship to the ground beneath our feet and to the universal energy that supports our life. They might be straight or curved or embellished with carvings and images, depending on how these four archetypes work within our psyches during the course of our lives. But they need to be stable to support the weight of the tabletop, our life and mission. All four archetypes influence how we relate to material power, how we respond to authority, and how we make choices. These archetypal energies are neutral, and I must reinforce the point here because of the connotations of their names. Although it can be difficult to see how the victim, prostitute, and saboteur can provide us with powerful and supportive imagery, they do, and you will. You'll come to see how even the most common variant of the child archetype, the wounded child, can help you deal with your life today. These four archetypes are the intimate companions of your intuition. They make you conscious of your vulnerabilities, your fear of being victimized. They allow you to see how you sabotage your creative opportunities or abort your dreams. And in the future, they will become your allies in fulfilling opportunities and dreams. Your archetypes will become your guardians and will preserve your integrity, refusing to allow you to negotiate it away under any circumstances. Your archetypes can help you transcend the shadow belief that everyone has a price and allow you to see that you are not for sale. They will allow you to become completely self-reliant. Through them, you will come to see options where others see excuses. The richest reward in working with these survival archetypes, however, reveals itself in the manner in which your contract unfolds. So Carolyn's theory is that we have the four shared survival archetypes, and then each of us have 8 archetypes specific to us. So this is her Sacred Contracts book that you may well be interested in taking up and learning about for yourself, because then you can put together the archetypal wheel. And that's where you put all 12 of your archetypes onto the houses of what I'm coming to understand to be the cosmic clock, which is a teaching of the ascended masters, which Saint Germain and Jesus were. And ultimately, I'm only coming into those teachings, but Michael Seegers and I did do a intro to the cosmic clock on the Michael and Laura show. If you look for the playlist on YouTube on my channel, to be able to do that, which is Laura J.E. Hamilton, for those who are on Facebook watching this later. While it is given that you have contracts to meet certain people, It is not determined ahead of time what kind of interaction you will have with each of them. That is up to you and, of course, to them. You can choose how you interact, but the more conscious you are about the patterns that influence your behavior, the more likely it is that your choices and the lessons you get from them will be positive. If your choices are formed only by your unconscious, however, and you are unaware of the archetypal energies influencing you, you will more likely act out of insecurity and defensiveness. By remaining aware of the archetypal energies, you stay conscious of both your divinity and your potential and the everyday world. Through your archetypes, you will find your own middle way, the path of your sacred contract. The child, the guardian of innocence. So we're only going to just get into this one today, which is still 3 pages. So there's more, but it's an example that we can just only speak into instead. And if you have any insights that are coming where you can identify yourself in the story, I'd love to read your comments, because truly we are the players on the field now. Jesus and Saint Germain had their day. The others, Buddha, Kuan Yin, like all the ones that we call to, they've all had their day, and this is ours. And we really need to understand that it is not blasphemy, though many will say that it is, to speak of ourselves as the ones that are walking this earth in order to do what they did. But ultimately, I feel like it's blasphemy to say that it's not possible for us and that we're bound to this 3D reality for the sake of being like a groundhog on the side of the road that just has no life left in it and then gets chucked away, as some would say. That is insanity from my perspective, because what would the point of that be? The grand overall designer broke into billions of pieces in order to experience itself as each of us, as individuated expressions of that grand overall designer that wanted to understand what it felt like to experience all things, of which our emotions are the expressions of it all, because our feelings are how we perceive the frequencies in our environment. So the child, guardian of innocence. The child, I thought it was going to fall down on me. The child archetype is our beginning point. We most easily identify with the child, especially after several decades of popular books and workshops on the inner child. This archetype establishes our perceptions of life, safety, nurturing, loyalty, and family. Its many aspects include the wounded child, the abandoned or orphan child, the dependent child, the innocent child, the nature child, and the divine child. These energies may emerge in response to different situations in which we find ourselves. Yet the core issue of all the child archetypes is dependency and responsibility. When we take responsibility, when to take responsibility, when to have a healthy dependency, when to stand up to the group, and when to embrace communal life. The stages of growing up, from coming to the age of reason at about 7, to entering adolescence at around 13, to reaching the official age of adulthood at 21, represent plateaus of spiritual and physical maturation. I'll also say that if you actually look at law, there's a trust in our name that the Sequivi Act of 1666 actually made it. So there was a trust that's traded in our name, which is why if you look at your birth certificate, there's a number on it that is your registration number, because that was actually the day that your stock started to get traded on the stock market. And the way that it's done is that they ink the foot of the baby. And it's not something cute to do. What it's actually doing is declaring us dead and lost at sea, because then we haven't touched foot on land, which is the one court or jurisdiction. Then we're out at water, which is admiralty law, which is maritime law, which is what says that we are dead and lost at sea until the age of 21, when we can declare our legal and lawful standing, and then no longer be minors of the earth, because minors are slaves, or not specifically, and anyone that is a minor, my hat goes off to the work that is done. But yes, that is shifting the O of the minors in terms of youth that we normally see it to be, and adding an E instead in its place to be the minors of the earth. Then we start to get a better picture of what's actually at play. All of this could get me banned one day. So I say it and just trust that what's going to be will be, and that you who watch it, when you do, have a piece of the puzzle to be able to do with as you will. And further to that, if you share what you know with others, that's how we get the full picture, because no one of us know everything. But together, we have all the bases covered. When we are completely dependent from birth to age 7, we develop the first skills for taking care of ourselves, our bodies, and our possessions. At age 7, we begin learning what it means to be responsible, not just for our belongings, but for our actions and deeds as well. Through ages 7 to 13, we develop further emotionally as we are introduced to larger issues of morality, ethics, loyalty, and the rules of relationships. During adolescence, we become self-aware, self-conscious, and self-centered. We become aware, if not consumed with, the power of our mind, the pull of our heart, and the passion of our body. During these wild years, images of all that you could be, or all that you fear you will never become, also step to the fore. During your late teen and early 20s, you discover your vulnerabilities as an adult, along with your strengths and talents. You make substantial choices about your life, and even though you will doubtless change your mind many times, or circumstances will reroute you, this is the beginning of your real contact with the world of physical responsibility separate from your tribe. Finally, the power of the Spirit emerges around the age of 21, as you begin to see beyond the physical aspect of life to find symbolic meaning in your actions, from political activism and social idealism to love and spiritual exploration. Around age 28, you naturally transition into the next cycle of your life as an interconnected, responsible adult. And right around that time, we go through our Saturn return as well, which Saturn is said to be the cosmic life coach. And that is literally when, if you don't deal with the patterns that you need to face during that time, it will create another multi-year cycle that ultimately will either bring you down or elevate you based on your choices, because of how you accrued karma during that time and either weighted yourself down with adding to the electronic belt that keeps us dense, or that added to the causal body where all of our positively aligned choices went that will help us move upwards, because the ascension process requires that we transmute at least 51% of our karma from this life and all the others. So there's more. The process that I have just described is, of course, how we ideally mature. Because of the complex challenges of everyday life, however, this spiritual maturation varies for most people. From an archetypal point of view, when these cycles are not followed in some ways, adults will find it difficult, if not impossible, to be responsible for themselves in the physical world and to create successful relationships. Your inner child will exhibit aspects of the wounded or orphan child, and will reflect that somewhere along the line, you did not receive the nurturing necessary for you to become responsible and independent. And so you may well spend the early years of adulthood trying to heal and compensate for these deficiencies. Confronting the child archetype within you awakens a new relationship with life, a fresh beginning. Regardless of which aspect of the child you relate to most intimately, this archetypal pattern brings you into contact with the untapped resources connected to creative thought. This is the core of the innocent child, the sensation that anything and everything is possible. As the guardian of your innocence, the child helps heal, repair, and put a stop to the inner directed abuse of the wounded child. If you are consumed with the wounded, neglected, abandoned, or orphan child psyche, you need to identify or initiate a new relationship or creative enterprise that makes you appreciate your life. Ask your child what it needs in order to heal or feel nurtured or cared for. The child often inspires you to act outside restrictive boundaries or to explore an adventure without the burdensome weights of the adult mind. Indulge some of these inspirations as a means of making contact with your inner child. Don't become over-attached to the wound, however. Don't overindulge the child so that it becomes an inner brat, but give it the support it needs to grow up. There's a story that you'll be able to read should you choose, and I recommend this book because it has been an invaluable resource to help me understand those 4 survival archetypes. And within the inner kingdom of our own realms, our inner world, we have an inner child, and we also have an inner parental team, which we can see to be the king and queen that need to learn how to take the throne, to not evict the child and tell them they aren't good enough like they've been told their whole life, but instead to create a symbiotic relationship within our inner selves that allow the child and the parent team within us to become more mature and responsible wielders of our own power. And so, as my gift for you today, as I say at 10:42 Eastern Standard Time right now, where I am, wherever you may be, that's cool too. But I want to actually do a little process with you to help you go in and retrieve one of the children within so that you are able to nurture and foster a relationship that allows you to create and restore more balance and order and harmony and love within your own self. Remembering that self is not just the SELF that we see it to be most often, but it is also the CELL-F that we get to choose whether we will fill our own selves with either faith or fear. We get to choose. So why not choose faith by plugging into resources like this that uplift and imbue you with reminders of your power? So you can remember who you are, who you came here to be, underneath all of the veils of energy that is evil, appearing real. If you can go underneath of that and cut right through it and get to the heart of the matter, that is how you can truly nurture yourself and contribute to the world in a way that will allow us all to say, okay, this is enough. It's time for us to get more responsible mind controllers. I mean, governmental officials on the throne of the realms that we have thought were jurisdiction that we fell under as citizens, which is just another level of slavery that is covert in this world where the truth has been inverted so far. We think that what is false is true and what is true is conspiracy. The CIA did a good job after JFK was assassinated to label anyone that questioned the narrative around how he was taken out. They deemed them all conspiracy theorists, and ultimately that took away any credibility that someone with a critical mind or that had firsthand experience witnessing the actual event could say about it. And then people just said, it's not worth it. I'm just going to shut my mouth and carry on and do business as usual and pretend I didn't see anything and just get on with life. And that was okay. And yet it's led to the world we have today. And this is not okay. And it would get a lot worse if we who have ears to hear this and eyes to realize what's going on say, no, not okay. We're going to shift this. So if you want to just take a seat and get yourself grounded, we're going to just do 3 breaths, and I'm going to just lead you through a short process, 10, 15 minutes at the very most. So just so you know what to expect, which allows you to settle and know that it's going to come to an end, and there will be uncomfortable emotions that show up because we're going to go in and retrieve one of the inner children within your inner kingdom that you denied, rejected, suppressed, tried to pretend didn't exist, locked away for a long time. And now we're going to say, okay, it's time to go back and find that part of you, which is just a fragment of your personality, a fragment of your soul you left in the not now moment of the past. And we're going to go back and find them and bring them back. So then they can be part of a harmonious family life within yourself. And then when we do this, that's then when we can start bringing that energy into the world of our own families and then beyond that as well. So, closing your eyes and taking a deep breath through your nose and out through your mouth. In through your nose, out through your mouth. And in through your nose, out through your mouth. Feeling yourself relax into the moment. Feel your body, your bum sitting on whatever it is that you're sitting on, your feet touching the ground or tucked underneath of you. Feeling the sensation of the air grazing your hands in this present moment, knowing you are safe, knowing that you are fully supported. Now enter into the kingdom within your mind and envision this to be the most magnificent kingdom that you have ever seen. Because when you were 3, 4, 5 years old, you knew it to be exactly that. As you ran through the corridors of the most magnificent kingdom that you've ever seen, even on the movies. And you jumped and delighted knowing that all of it was your fabulous personality. Until someone came and knocked on the door. And in your excitement to show off all that was you, you opened that door brazenly, excitedly. And when you saw that it was the person you loved the most, whether it be your mother or your father, it being Mother's Day, we'll use the mother as the example. Grandmother, guardian mother, whatever most resonates for you, that is who is at the door right now, who walks into this magnificent kingdom that is absolutely magnificent. And remember that as we walk through this, because that woman is about to bring her insecurity and garbage, the baggage of all of her trauma and drama and insecurities into your kingdom and cast judgments on this beautiful space. And I want you to remember what it was like for her to come into your kingdom and look around and exclaim that truly it was magnificent, absolutely beautiful. But then she got to a point where there was a room she hadn't owned within her own inner kingdom that made her very uncomfortable. And she projected her insecurities, not feeling safe within herself, onto you. And as a little child, that before the age of 7, we don't even have a conscious mind to discern the information that we're exposed to, we took it straight in. And when she cast judgment on a particular room, a little piece of our soul got stuck in that room. And so now that we have revisited that moment when that trauma came, when she said, no, that's not good enough. That's not something you want to show off. What would the neighbors think? Whatever her story was, All of that got stuck in that room within your inner kingdom. And now you, instead of her, are the one that's knocking on this door now, opening it yourself because that child has become so fragmented that it's not able to open the door for us any longer. And so we, as the responsible guardians of our own souls, are now opening that door and walking through the kingdom straight to that room that she deemed not good enough, opening that door. And in the darkness, there may be dust and cobwebs and a mess because a little child has been living there in fear for all these years. And look around that room now and find the little girl or little boy that's inside of that room, and then go and sit down next to where they're balled up because they are afraid of the judgments you will now pass, because it has never been safe for someone to come into this ugly room from their perspective. And so you go over and you sit down next to that little child and hold peace and grace in your heart and love in an unconditional way for them to be able to feel the resonance of that magnetic love that breaks them out of the spell of unworthiness, the spell of not being good enough. And as you sit next to this little child and try to talk to them, at first they are resistant and reluctant because they don't trust you, who didn't protect them before you knew how to. And so explain that to them. Let them know that you were doing the best that you could and you didn't know how to do better until now. But now you do. And what you really want is for them to come to the throne room with you. And you're going to walk there together, hand in hand. And that little child is not going to be left to stand there on their own and have to defend the realm the way they were always scared of, the way their mother was scared of, which was why they said, no, don't. And as you sit and you talk with this aspect of yourself, you feel the shift happening. You feel them uncurling out of that ball and making eye contact briefly to see if it's safe to do so. And as they look and you hold that space and let them know that you love them as they are, even though they've gotten dirty over the years, you love them anyway. And as you extend this grace to them, the eye contact goes from short spurts to longer gazes to finally locking eyes as their head begins to nod in agreement and acceptance that you are someone to be trusted, because now you can trust yourself to do what is best for both of you, for all of you, for there are many more rooms to unlock too. But first we begin with one. And so now, whatever needs to happen for that little child to agree to come with you to the throne room, let that happen now. And now imagine yourself taking the hand of that little child and walk through the threshold, over the threshold between the room where that child, that aspect of your personality was locked away for so long. And now you're in the corridor where there is darkness because the majority of rooms in most people's kingdoms have been closed down. So you are not alone. And you need not judge yourself for what you see where you are here. Just walk through the kingdom, through the corridors, to the throne room. And when you get there, you let the child know that you, the king and queen of your inner kingdom, are going to take the throne. And that child is now free to go to a place where they can play and be themselves fully. And you'll collect them at the end of the day too. And so make an agreement with that child, whatever that means for you. Continue to breathe and use your breath as the language of your soul to harmonize your inner self, the inner kingdom, that all of the aspects of your personality exist. And that as you do this, you call back fragments from the past moments where trauma and drama occurred, to allow that child to now create a space that they feel safe and they can go and play. So, wherever it is that you remember feeling those emotions of safety and security and playfulness and freedom, call that into your mind and let the child that you have now retrieved, the aspect of your soul, go to that place and check in on them and let them know they can always come to you, the response able parental team that now sit on the throne of your inner kingdom. And you can look at the king beside you or the queen, both of whom are aspects of you, who now sit on that throne, ready to parent yourself in a way you never knew you could do before. And now you are understanding you can. And not only that you can, but you must, because the world needs your empowered self to be fully present in this present moment where all of your power exists. So take another breath, and as you do, ensure that your belly is what rises first, because that is how you activate the lower chakras of your solar plexus, where your willpower sits and self-esteem. And then your sacral chakra, which is your creativity, your sex and money, the ways that you create in this world. And then your root chakra at the base of your spine, which is how you find your sense of belonging in this world. Let your breath activate each of these energy centers by breathing from your lower belly up, like an ice cream scoop, all the way down and all the way up. And use your breath as the way that you can breathe yourself through any moment. It is the only thing that we do from the time we are born until the very final thing we do as the soul incarnated in physical form. So I hope this process was useful for you and that you can go back and do it again. That you can go back and retrieve more aspects of your soul, the parts of you that will bring you back into wholeness, so that you can be the parent you wished that you had had, without judging the ones that you did have or didn't have. The guardians that you needed to be there for you before you knew how to do it for yourself. Forgive them. And you can use the Ho'oponopono prayer, which is 4 lines. I'm sorry. Please forgive me. I love you. Thank you. And you can build a story around that as you continue to heal, because this process is just the start, just the beginning place, where you go to retrieve the scared side of yourself and then walk them home to bring them into a sacred aspect of their own inner knowing, which is your inner knowing, and begin to call back what you gave away freely before, not knowing that you actually can fully be there for you and others too, because we cannot give what we do not have. So I hope this was useful. I send you huge love. I send you wishes for love in an unconditional way. And I hope that you will be willing to give yourself that grace to begin. And if you would share this message with a friend that needs to hear it as well, I thank you, and I hope they do too. I would love to know what it means to you and for you. So please do leave a comment so that I can understand where you're at. And if you like the video as well, it does help with the algorithms for my channel to be exposed to more people. Happy Mother's Day, Mama's Day to you for all the nurturing and loving you give. Thank you, Bergie. I appreciate you and send you huge love. And last week, Bergie and I actually did an amazing service that stretched both of us and was a powerful episode. So if you haven't checked that out, then I would encourage you to come have some fun with us from last week on the 1st of May, which was the new beginning, where we called more of ourselves back to ourselves. And I'll look forward to hopefully coming together with Bergie again soon and others too, because ultimately, no one of us is as great as all of us. So I am grateful to be in this world with you, and for whatever trauma or drama you experience at the hands of your family who may not be able to love all of you because of how you challenged them and they've not embraced within themselves. I hope you will be willing to not only forgive them, but forgive yourself for holding yourself hostage to their expectations, their disappointments. And love is the answer. But first, it begins with us. So I look forward to seeing you again next week. And I wish you an amazing week in the meantime. Have a good one, and we'll see you again soon, guys. Thanks a lot. Guys, ladies, men. I would prefer men than guys. Guys is some bastardized version of what men came here to be. Women need men. So instead of guys, that vernacular, I'm trying to drop it. I'm just calling myself out, as I often do, and simply say men, women, ones who are empowered and fully on the soul throne. You. I wish you an amazing week, and we'll see you again soon. Toodaloo. Thank you.